through the heart of Ensenada is something that it's unique, and it's part of our culture now, and
Well,
everyone
yeah,
loves it.
that's actually the direction I was going with this. Is that for listeners that are and like I told you before we started recording here, this podcast isn't necessarily geared towards the motorsport crowd. It's impossible for us not to get there because it's so much a part of who I am, and so many of the people that I know in Baja or the relationships that I have stem from that. So, but the listeners that are not connected to the motorsports side of things, or even if they are, it's fascinating that a sport, if you want to call it that, and really it's an industry, it's a culture, it's a family, it's a lot of things, but the sport of off-road racing truly is today, I mean, woven through the DNA of the culture of Ensenada, and really for Baja, for that matter. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. It's our national sport here in Baja.
And it's funny because you say national in Baja. We all know that Baja is there's two states as a part of the nation of Mexico, but so often I think Baja does get looked at as a separate country, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, it shouldn't be that way. But if you go to Mexico City or wherever you go in mainland, you hear this. You talk about Baja, and they actually think you're talking about the U.S.
Really?
So yeah.
Oh, how
So
funny.
I don't know.
Okay, so off-road racing is part of the culture, you know, at a foundational level of the town you grew up in. You're the son of a farmer, cattle rancher, and fast forward, now all of a sudden you're a teenager, young adult. Or when you were a racer, I mean, I know that you had a background in racing. You probably still have the desire to do it. But how did you end up getting the opportunity or getting involved in the racing side of things? You were a fan, and now fast forward to where you're not just a fan, but you're a
Well,
participant.
huge fan. I mean, that was my passion. I always wanted to do it. Uh, all I never had I always had like my daily driver was always a pickup truck. It had, I mean, I made it look like a race car. Of course, it
Of course,
wasn't.
yeah.
It was a beater, but I mean, I always wanted to do it. But on the negative side, my father was always against it,
Really?
and yeah, so. I got married when I was 21, and I started racing when I was 21 because I was out of my house. So I waited until I got married to actually. I was backwards on what most of people do. Once someone gets married, it's goodbye to all those hobbies or things
Right.
like that. Yeah, so to me it was different. I got married, and then I thought, well, my dad can't tell me that I can't do it, and I started racing. He didn't like it, but after the first or second year, he was even sponsoring me. He was going to the races. He loved it. And there's a funny story on that. On my first year, my last race, on my first year, I was third place in the points championship, and I was rookie of the year. And so to me, it was pretty good because I did not have a very competitive vehicle. And my father had to go to the U.S. actually to check out on his bank things, and that was his passion also. He was always about administrating and things like that. And I was going to race in San Vicente, and that was the first time that my dad sent my mom to the bank, and he told her what to do, and he said he had something important to do, and no one knew what. So anyway, I went to San Vicente. I did my race. I finished third as I rolled on the first lap, of course. And then I went to the awards, and I bought a picture that I still have with me starting. There's a whole crowd in the back, and my father's way in the back just looking at me. He never told me
Oh
he was
my
there.
gosh.
Yeah, and I keep that. That's like precious to me. And so that was pretty cool. So after the awards, I went home and I said, "Hey, Dad, so where were you yesterday?" "Oh, I was working." He's like,
He
"No,
didn't
no, you weren't."
confess.
Yeah, yeah, he did. But anyway, after that, he loved it.
You know, Jose, I can't help but bring this up. I know unfortunately your father passed away, as has mine, and
Yes.
I can sympathize, commiserate, whatever the right word is, with you in that situation. But what a cool! It's funny. I'm actually at my desk looking at a picture from 1985. My dad wasn't hiding out, spying on me. We were actually sitting on a dock. I just caught a big fish off of a boat that he owned. But
That's awesome.
what a cool thing to have kind of persevered, chased your passion, gone and done it without necessarily the blessing of your dad, but ultimately get the blessing and catch him in the act of giving you the blessing without even telling you up front.
Yeah,
Right at the
yeah,
beginning.
yeah,
So
yeah.
don't ever lose that picture.
No, I'll never lose it.
So, you're working for him at that point in time, I'm assuming, or are you doing something else for
No, I went on my own that time, and I had the business in town, like a money exchange house, and cash checks, and bought and sold dollars and things like that. And it went pretty good. That's what got me into racing, and I actually paid for my racing. And then there was the economy dropped. That wasn't good, so I went back to farming. But at that point, there was no going back to not racing. That was my life. That was my passion.
Yeah.
Yes. Once you do it once, you're I don't know if it's bad or good, but you're screwed, and you're gonna keep doing it no matter what. You're gonna be involved no matter what.
Okay, well, we've been putting this off long enough for the listeners that don't know who Jose is, and to me, I was thinking about this morning, man. Just like thinking about where off-road racing sits in the culture of Ensenada, and knowing bits and pieces about your past, and then quite a bit about you from the times that we worked together. Jose is today, and let's make sure we get this right. You were the race director, but now the president of Score International. Is that the proper title?
Well, actually, I'm both.
All right, he's got two roles. The point is, and those of you that are listening that don't know what Score International is, Score International is arguably the most prominent sanctioning body for professional off-road racing in the world. The sanctioning body for the world famous Baja 1000 and Baja 500 and the San Felipe 250, and an inaugural race that's happening here in a couple of weeks called the Lucerna Baja 400. But to me, I lured you in to this podcast claiming that we could talk about that race, and we will talk about that race. But the real cool part of having you on the show, Jose, is that I would imagine today there are kids in Ensenada, just like you were back in the 70s, that either sneak out of school or take advantage of if schools actually do. The gringos always hear, oh, yeah, they shut the schools down for race days. Is that true?
Nah, they don't. We just skip class.
Just skip. So I'm sure there are kids today that are fanatical about off-road racing and know who all their heroes are and skip school to come to contingency or watch the race. And you were one of those kids that has followed their passion and has risen to a point where, I mean, dude, you're the president of the foremost sanctioning body of off-road racing in the world. And to me, that was really the story that I wanted to cover with you. How does that feel?
Well, just awesome. I mean, like you said, follow your dreams, and you never know where it's going to take you. And if you asked me, I don't know, 10 years ago that this was going to, I mean, that if I ever thought that this would be possible, I would immediately said no. And I don't know, I think this is an opportunity that I was given, and I'm working extremely hard to keep it.
Yeah, no, I know you are. So, common question that gets asked to people that have accomplished or made it to a place in life where they're, it's fulfilling a dream is, like, well, how'd you get there? What'd you do? And the common answer is always like, oh, just follow your dreams, follow your passions. But what else would you say to kids that are passionate about something other? Like, to me, it's just keep your head down and keep moving. And that's still kind of generic. But what would you share with kids in Mexico or anywhere around the world that have a passion that want to continue doing that as adults or being involved or want to rise through the ranks? I mean, can you give anybody gives any insight?
Well, I think it, like you just said. I mean, just follow your dream, but your dreams won't take you there. You have to go there. I mean, you have to work really hard to get there, and I think it's not that hard to get there. The problem is staying there, because once you're there, you're in the. I mean, that's like the hot potato. If you do something wrong, you're not going to stay there for a long time.
Sure.
And so yeah, you have to grow. You have to you have to listen to other people. You have to surround yourself with the with positive people. Sometimes even hear the negative people also, because there's always good things that come about listening to others, and it's not just you. You can't close yourself to new ideas and or old ideas and whatever it takes. I mean, it always takes a team because yeah, I'm the president, race director, but I don't work alone. There's a extremely good team of people that I'm surrounded by. You're one of them. You know, I've been always trying to get you to help out and in whatever and like CRB and I mean I always listen and it's so awesome when people tell you, hey, you can call me if you have or you need some advice and I mean when a Larry Rossler, when Johnny Campbell, when people that I totally admire, I mean, want to work with me, it's something that I can't explain it how good it feels.
Well, I was going to say, you know, you started off talking about your heroes, and Roger Mears being one of them, and to think that, you know, as a kid, a teenager, a guy like that, I wouldn't say it was out of reach, because that's one thing that's cool about our sport. You know, I mean, he was probably hanging out in the streets of Ensenada, and you for all intents and purposes, probably, you know, were able to get his autograph and touch him or talk to him or whatever.
Yes.
But to get to the point in life where you can pick up the phone and call him, and you're actually, you know, trying to get him to come and work with you in an organization or be a part of an event. I shouldn't say work, but that's a neat thing as well. I mean, you're meeting with politicians.
Yes.
The owner of the company you work for is an incredibly successful man. I got to think that the world that you've been exposed to through this sport and now your position within the sport, you've probably learned some really valuable things in life.
Definitely. I think this all started with since you're young, the way you treat people and you expect them to treat you the same, and it just comes natural dealing with people, and it's like wide open. I mean, you know that if there was a problem, there's ways to treat. There's always respect, and there's always ways to treat people, and I was kind of natural on that, and I always knew how and what to do when there was a problem. So that I started growing on that and loving the sport. So and yeah, and definitely, like you said, I mean, now with this position, I mean, I'm dealing with governors, with presidents, with all kinds of people that I never knew that I was going to be able to meet, and you learn a lot. You definitely learn a lot, but you learn more about the people that that love the sport and they want to keep seeing it growing, and that's what I like.
So I think one word to sum up what I think you've been trying to say is service. You can work hard, you can have a passion, but at the end of the day, solving problems ultimately is what propels people to higher levels, whether it's professional or relational. Being a servant, solving people's problems, adding value, being selfless. I think those are probably things that you would agree with have helped you get to where you are.
Yes.
And what will help you stay where you're at.
Exactly. Yes. And I'm the same person that you met in 2002. So.
Well, you got a little more gray hair. Your cheeks are a little more chubby.
I didn't
but
say
yeah, you're the same
because
guy.
I'm definitely not. Yeah, I know.
So, you know, I was thinking about the word service as you were telling all these things, or saying these things, and the word service came up. I was remembering back to an incident. It was probably 6 or 7 years ago now. I'd had a problem, if you will, on a famous road we all know as the Crossover Road or the Vineyard Road, and I just happened to see you, and you were so willing to help out, give me phone numbers, recommend places to go to put my car that had been damaged, and that's it. I mean, when you are a willing servant to help other people, I think the rewards that come back from that are immeasurable, really. And
yes.
So I'll take this time right now just to say to you, man, thank you, because you have always been a very good friend.
You're welcome.
And a reliable person. You know, you do what you say and you say what you do. So I appreciate that. So, so I also know something about you I'm curious to know what's